Welcome to WildMode. Today I'm going to show you guys how I turned a damaged coyote skull into handmade pendants. If you enjoy watching crafts like this, feel free to subscribe and like the video. And if you're a Zelda fan, stick around. There's more content coming. Now, I know what you're wondering. How did I damage a coyote skull? Well, I originally found the coyote skull while I was working in a field, and I planned to display it. But when I tried cleaning it, I kept it in the vinegar for too long and then later put it in bleach, and it created an acid that started corroding it. At that point, only the teeth were savable, so I decided not to waste the skull that I spent a long time waiting to clean, and decided to turn them into pendants instead of throwing the whole thing away. Because of the corrosion, most of the teeth were actually easier to remove. I could pull many of them out with just tweezers. However, some didn't survive. Eventually, I did manage to get the teeth out by just kind of brute forcing it with the tweezers, and most of them survived. The canines were a lot harder though. Even with the damage, they were still stuck deep in the skull, and I had trouble pulling them out with just the tweezers. So I grabbed a sewing pin and tried to break the section of the skull around the canines and ended up stabbing my own finger instead. As for the teeth cleaning, after getting all the teeth out, they still smelled like vinegar. So I decided to soak them in baking soda and water for a while to fix that. Luckily it did. After that, I just scrubbed them under running water to make sure they were really clean. And yes, I did get a new toothbrush after that because I used my toothbrush. Once the teeth were clean, I gathered my materials. I started with the necklace because I wanted to give it to my brother for Christmas. So I chose a canine tooth because I thought that would be the coolest one. After cutting the cord to size, most of the work came down to shaping and wrapping the wire. The loop was easier after some trial and error, but securing the tooth took more time than expected. I had to wrap the wire both below the widest part of the tooth and up and under it to make sure it wouldn't slip out. After finishing the hook and testing it, the necklace held up really well. As for testing, I ended up doing jumping jacks, light jogs back and forth across my room. For the bracelets took a little bit more experimenting than I had assumed. Took me a couple of tries to get the leather braiding right, which I did off camera. I tested different leather braids, but ended up going on the triple leather braid like you would braid somebody's hair, because it was the easiest to figure out and do. As for the sewing, it had its own challenge. I ended up breaking needles more than once, and once everything was eventually finished, I glued the knots so that way they wouldn't come loose with super glue. Attaching the tooth took even more trial and error. The first design was mostly wire wrapping around it, which didn't hold up too well, so I did some more trial and error until I finally ended up on one version that used just wire that held up decently well. After that, with the next bracelet, I ended up using both wire and sewing material, and that actually held up the best out of all of them. After adjusting fit, the bracelet worked really well for both. After finishing the first pendants, I made one more necklace and one more bracelet, using different teeth for variety. These went much faster since I already knew what I was doing, even though I still managed to break a few sewing needles along the way also. In the end, I'm really happy with how the pendants turned out. What started as a mistake ended up giving the skull more of a purpose than just a display piece. And I think that it made it a lot more interesting than just waking up to see a skull every single day. Anyway, that is all. If you like the video, subscribe and like the video. And come back sometime. There's always more content coming. Let's go wild.